I'm in the studio with Silver Sun pickups today.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, cool.
I got about 30 minutes if that's cool.
Yeah, we'll go straight to the greatest hits, man. How's your morale and everything?
I'm doing okay. I was lucky during COVID. I'm sitting in my home studio here, and I pretty much worked nonstop over the last 18 months. Um, it was hard for a lot of musicians I know who rely on touring, and that was just completely gone from everyone's vocabulary. I mean, not just for musicians, everyone basically
Hmm.
when we went into lockdown. But I was just on a tour with Garbage. We played a couple months in North America back in August and September, and it was great to get back out and play in front of people. Not easy to do. There was a pretty strict COVID protocol. We were all vaccinated. We wore masks everywhere. Some of the venues had vaccine mandates and things like that. But the shows were great, and nobody got sick. And we're looking forward to going out and playing some more shows in early 2022.
I love it, Butch. I mean, like being from Wisconsin, you're from Viroqua. It's like one of my second hometowns. I love that place. I'm there all the time. It's like a great place of zen. But you know, getting to tour overseas and stuff, and like you play in Germany and you play in Austria, and people like don't know Wisconsin, so they're like, "What's Wisconsin?" And we're like, and then what I always tell them, Violent Femmes, Butch Vig. So thanks for repping the state and giving us a dot on the map. And I feel, we've only met really briefly, kind of in passing, but you've always given off a very like calming presence. Is there what do you do to keep zen? Because you live in LA. Some might call it the land of shattered dreams. It's an intense place. There's a lot of high vibration people, all hustling all at once. How do you keep it zen?
Well, that's a very good question, Brett. I think everybody has their own ways of dealing with stress and chaos and insanity. I mean, for me, I'm lucky that my job, I don't even consider it a job. I just make music, whether I'm touring or writing music or producing someone. I in a studio. I'm pretty much in a recording studio every day if I'm not on tour. And that for me is part of what makes me tick. If I didn't have that, if I couldn't create music, I think I would probably go absolutely insane. I don't really have any hobbies, other than complaining about Aaron Rodgers' prima donna act with the Green Bay Packers. Although right now I just want him to stay healthy and win a Super Bowl.
What about
Um,
this, Butch? What if it's in Aaron Rodgers' contract secretly to create all this controversy and drum up some PR to put Green Bay on the map nationally, internationally?
That's a damn good conspiracy theory, Brett, and
Yeah.
I'll go with that. It's as I said, I'm trying to just shut all that out now and just pray that they stay healthy and have a shot at the playoffs. So, but in terms of stress, I have found probably the one thing I also need to do is I need to move my body. I need to get out and get some exercise. I've never been a gym rat. I really hate going to the gym, but just getting out and walking every day really clears my head. And I started to realize that on tour, like during version 2.0, which was 20 years ago, Garbage went on tour for about 22 months, almost 2 years.
Wow.
And I started getting depressed and just sort of I felt like I was outer space, and part of that is you're sucked out of all your normal routines. You're not sleeping in the same bed every night. You're taken away from your family, and while the shows are great and exciting, you just sort of turn into a bit of a zombie. And I found the only way I could sort of deal with that was to get up in some strange city every day and go for a walk, and just getting out and walking for 30 minutes clears my head and got me thinking, got my blood moving. And I still feel that way today. Like if I get up and take my dogs for a walk or just get out and move my body before I go into the studio, that I have a much better day.
Hmm. And you say like, music is your mode of therapy. Did you have any like horrible jobs before music where there were like holy shit moments where you're like, man, I gotta get my shit together and like find something I want to do, or this is gonna be a long life?
Yeah, I had some pretty crappy jobs during college and post college. I think a short order cook was one of the most stressful. I was not very good at it. I'm still not very good. I get stressed out in the kitchen when my wife asks me to make dinner. It's all about the timing, trying to figure out, okay, when is this coming out of the oven? When am I dressing this? When am I serving this? I don't know how chefs do it. I mean, they live in a very high stress environment because they have to deliver everything perfect every night, and then they get up and they do it again the next day.
No kidding, man. I can't believe, like, from what I understand, it's an addiction because it's like, who would want to work in a sauna, with like 10 other people? You're all shoulder to shoulder. It's miserable in there, and it's like, I think you and I will probably never understand, but I think I think the camaraderie and like the stakes are high, and there's a rush and there's pressure on you. So it must be some sort of like primal, like being at war kind of thing.
Yeah, it's probably some sort of bizarre form of addiction that you live for that adrenaline rush. I mean, I can see a similar analogy to being in a band. We go on tour, 22 or 23 hours a day are just monotonous and getting your butt dragged from point A to point B. You're sitting around and waiting, and then you're on stage for an hour or two, and it's an incredible adrenaline rush, and then it stops, and then the whole cycle starts over again. So there is a similar analogy to that, I think, from a touring musician to being a chef.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, why is waiting just so brutal? I don't know. It's like even getting back on the road, doing the thing I love to do most. It's like even the 3 hours before every show, I'm like, what is my life? What am I doing? Do I have any purpose? Will I die alone? Why am I in a small, cold room in Michigan by myself right now? So it's good to know that even you get those feelings touring stadiums and stuff.
Yeah, well, there is a loneliness to it, even though you see fans every night, and that is incredible. It's just a great communal experience, but that's such a short part of the day. You wake up in a hotel room, where am I? Or you wake up in your tour bus or van or a friend's couch, depending on what level you're touring at.
Yeah.
And then you clear your head and go, what's going on today? There's a lot more tools now, I think, just with the internet and being able to stream. You can entertain yourself by watching shows on the bus or in your hotel room and things. But at the end of the day, I think, like I said, I need to get up in a city and move my body, just get out, have a destination, walk to a coffee shop, a local coffee shop, get a cup of joe and just sort of, maybe head downtown, maybe go to a museum, do something to just engage your brain and get your blood moving.
Yeah. Do you have any vices? You said coffee, and I was like, coffee's been crushing me lately because I'm just, I had to wean off the coffee because I'm too addicted to it. But
I'm on my third cup here, Brad, if you can see the... My wife got this for me for Christmas last year.
Have you ever had like a coffee meltdown where you just hit the threshold and it was all over?
Yeah, I started drinking a couple years ago half calf after I would have my first espresso or cappuccino in the morning. I drink a lot of coffee, especially in the studio. So I mix it up with half calf or sometimes decaf because I like the process of having coffee.
Yeah.
Just having something to do. But I can't drink caffeine all the day. I start to get the jitters. And
I get ripped on
good.
for drinking decaf, and I think it's a great invention.
Yeah, and I mix it. I get two French roasts and grind them up and then mix it 50-50, so I sort of make my own blend.
Right. It's the same thing with like beer and IPA or whatever. I don't know if you drink beer. I think you a beer drinker a little bit.
Yes, somewhat. I used to drink beer all the time. Growing up in Wisconsin.
It's like, who wants an 8% IPA? It's like I like this lightweight beer where it's like 2% where I can stay in the game.
Yeah, I'll stick with a 5% lager. I kind of know if I have 2 or 3 of those, I know how I'm going to feel.
Tell me about so. When you guys, you got signed, you start to get on the rocket ship kind of thing, and you still gotta do shows and kind of rehearse live under the radar. Do you ever have do you ever have to do like secret fake band names to do secret shows so the label didn't get pissed to knock some rust off? You got any funny fake band names you made up?
Yeah, well, when we started version 2.0, we played I think 3 shows under a fake name, Stupid Girl. That was the name of the band. Obviously that's a garbage song.
Was that before the song came out?
No, that was Stupid Girl came out on the first album, and this is for
Okay.
our second album. And we were starting out with some pretty high profile shows, and we just realized we needed some warm up gigs, but we didn't really want to play under garbage because we just wanted the shows to be really low key.
Hmm.
Part of it was we were trying out some new technology on stage and just playing new songs for the first time, and so we did 3 shows as Stupid Girl, and it was pretty funny because you could see some people in the crowd who came to see us knew it was garbage and knew what they were coming to see, and other people had no idea, but they still came to see a band called Stupid Girl anyway.
Oh, I love it, man. One of my favorite things to do of all time, especially over like a happy hour or a coffee, is just come up with lists of band names. I have just miles and pages of them in my phone on my computer. Tell me what you think of these. I just came up with these the other day. Vanity Metrics. I think maybe that could be something. That's not
Vanity
taken.
Metrics, that's good, yeah. I agree with you. Making band names is kind of fun and stupid, but it can really entertain you. I sometimes do that in the studio with Silver Sun Pickups now. Every other day we're like, let's make up a band, and I also do that with my daughter. She came up with a name I really like recently, Evaporating Cats.
Okay,
I think
see
that's
that?
from Kansas City, ladies and gentlemen, Evaporating Cats.
That's yeah.
What kind of music would they sound like?
I think that'd have to be like female-fronted power pop. You know?
I think so. Yeah, I think Cats. Yeah, I think it would be some sort of female pop. Another band name my daughter came up with, Mice Cream. Is pretty awesome. Now, to me, Mice Cream is a power trio, really heavy, sludgy. Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Mice
that's
Cream.
punk. Yeah, that's punk to the core. What about Explosure? That's
I
pretty
love that.
terrible. That's so bad it's
Explosure.
good.
That could be sort of metal, could be sort of prog too.
Yeah.
Explosure.
Prog mathematical metal. All right.
You
I
know,
want to
I've-
start. Yeah, you go. You go.
I've been in a lot of side bands through my life, and you can't be in too many bands. Obviously, Garbage is my full-time band. I have another band I'm with, a good friend of mine from the UK, James Grillo, and Andy Jenks. We started a band called 5 Billion in Diamonds a couple years ago and have released a couple albums. And it's sort of based on our love of soundtrack music and obscure like folk singers and one-hit wonders from the late 60s, early 70s.
Hmm.
But I also had a band with some friends in Wisconsin, Emperors of Wyoming. I'm doing a show in Madison on January 8th with the Know It All Boyfriends.
I don't know it all boyfriends. I just talked to Freedy the other day, and Jay Moran. I think he served me one of my first beers at Jenna's Lounge in Madison.
Very good friends of mine, and we have
Yeah.
a side band, and we're part of this benefit for epilepsy on January 8th, which is going to be awesome. But it's just cool. I think sometimes having side bands is a good thing because it allows you to stretch off in some other area of music that's different from your main band. So I encourage it. Do side projects. It's good for your mental health.
I think that's a really great idea, and I haven't done much of that just because I've been trying to keep my own ship afloat, and it just takes so many hours and that kind of thing. But it's like, at a certain point, you do need, like, it takes the pressure off your main thing. But I guess my worry, Butch, is like putting a bunch of like time and effort and money into another project. I fear like trying to keep that afloat or like, would be too much to handle. But maybe I'm thinking about it wrong. Maybe you just make the songs and move on.
In some ways, that's what you should do. Yeah, you should just use it as an excuse or an exercise in letting yourself stretch to someplace that you normally wouldn't go. Yeah, don't belabor it too much or get too hooked in on it. In fact, it may be better if you just sort of approach it like, I'm just going to do this quick and let it go. You might end up writing a hit single. You never know. Sometimes
Sure.
you go, this track is so weird and so stupid. I'm just going to put it out and let it be what it is, and then it turns into something with a life larger than you would have ever expected. So, yeah, I
love
encourage it. I think it's good for your mental health to get involved in side projects.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. And let this pod be it'll force me to do it. You hold me to it, and I'm going to do it because I get so caught up in the hamster wheel of work, and I love what I do. I'm so obsessed with it. I love playing gigs and all, and recording, and even like making graphics and posters and cover art. Like I love the whole thing, but sometimes I just take it too seriously, and then before I know it, I'm like hyper stimulated, checking the phone like 50 times a day, just working too much, and it's a bad feeling. Like I noticed in the evenings the past week, I would just go to the path of least resistance and go to the Netflix in the evening. Whereas like before, I was painting, I was writing songs, I was reading, and I'd never felt better when I was in that zone. And I'm about 5 days in with no Netflix or no TV at night, and it totally turned around like my huge depressive lull. So I don't know, that could be something.
Yeah, I go through different phases. Sometimes I'll get on a Netflix jag with my wife and we'll watch a show like anybody. We'll burn through 10 episodes or something. A lot of times I listen to music at night, but I don't really listen to music like garbage or rock and roll or things that I'm producing. I listen to a lot of soundtrack music, or classical music or jazz, just because it's so different from the typical stuff that I'm doing in a studio on a day-to-day basis. It's good for me to keep away from that. A lot of times I read too. I'm in a book club with 7 other dudes, and about every 6 weeks or 2 months we get together and talk about a book that we read, and then one of us nominates the next book, and then we read it. And so it's good because it's also got me out of my box of certain things I like to read. And we've read all sorts of really interesting books, especially during COVID, I think, because we were under a lockdown. We kind of really ratcheted up the reading. And it's cool. It's also good because that completely removes me from music. You can lose yourself in a really good book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? You think bookstores and books are going to be a thing in 100 years?
Yeah, I think there will always be books, but they may be on your phone or on your Kindle. I still love going to bookstores.
But yeah, that's what I'm worried about, like physical books being toast.
Yeah, I hope not, because there's something about holding that physical specimen in your hands and flipping the pages. And I think books are also a little harder to manipulate, just as you see all the false propaganda on Facebook. In any sort of digital file, I feel that people have access to can be manipulated over time. So
Great point.
we have no idea how history is going to be altered from when people start messing with it and what they're putting on the internet. So books are a good thing. I encourage people to, if you can, support your local bookstore.
Yeah, no, and we actually are talking today because of Eddie, our mutual friend at Driftless Books in Viroqua. He helped me with a few things on the book that I put out. And yeah, what a sweet dude and an awesome bookstore. It's an old tobacco factory. It's just down the street from your house, I think. It's a magical place. I mean, caverns and the ceiling's a mile high with books from like medieval times and stuff. And I mean, this guy's doing a real civil service up there. He's a historian, so it's not just a bookstore, but it's a total museum.
It is so cool. Every time I go there, my daughter, who's 15, loves going there because, like you said, Brett, you just lose yourself. You can start walking down these aisles and find these sections with books that you didn't even know existed. And it's cool, man, because as we all know, all the Barnes and Nobles, all the big corporate bookstores sort of 20 years ago kind of killed small bookstores, but now all the Barnes and Nobles and those are kind of fallen by the wayside because of Amazon. But to have a place like Driftless Books is an incredible experience for anybody who loves books. So if you ever make it to Viroqua, you got to go there and say hello to Eddie. You're right, he's a super cool dude. And I'm going there over Christmas. I'm going to see my family, and we're going to go up to Viroqua for a couple days. So I will definitely.
Nice. I'll be there for New Year's. You around for New Year's?
Right on.
Good.
I may be there for New Year's. I'm not quite sure how our schedule's shaking out. But what are you doing in Viroqua on New Year's?
I'll see Eddie. I got a couple really close friends. It's kind of like my therapy zone, So I kind of just go there and have dinner with my buddies, Katie and Jared, and we just kind of sit around and we'll have a beer or two. they're always built like he'll be building like a sauna in the backyard, or like a fish boil. Like he's like a real woodsman, like real beast of a
Cool.
man. So he's
Right on.
always got some sweet projects. So I'll probably get up there. He'll be like, Newski, let's get in the backyard sauna club in my backyard. He built a tree fort last time I was there. So the guy,
Oh, that
it's
is cool.
a
Yeah,
cool couple,
that's hands-on and living in Wisconsin. I love that. It's really cool.
Yeah, man. It's this lost art, this lost primal art that we have in our DNAs of like building like structures with our hands. I feel like I'm not getting that, and I'm getting weak. I need to build something. I fixed my bathroom sink the other day, which was pathetic. I mean, but it was like the first like handyman work I've done in a long time. I was pretty proud of myself just for like pulling a pile of pubes out of the depths of the sink.
I am a terrible handyman. I can't really fix anything around the house. I can't change a tire on the car. I don't know. I don't know shit. I know how to make music, and that's about it.
So how does Wisconsin still play a role in your life now? I think you're out in LA full time making records and stuff. Has this been like your sanctuary of a place to like kind of find peace and keep it real?
Yeah, I mean, my family still lives back there, and I lived in Madison for 20 years, or more than that, 30 years. Had Smart Studios there for almost 30 years in Madison. And I still love going back there. I really feel like it's my hometown. I live in LA now. I live in a nice neighborhood, Silver Lake, a lot of really cool restaurants and cafes. I can walk around the reservoir and have really good friends here. But I still feel like Madison's my hometown to a certain
Cool.
extent, and I like going back there. I'm looking forward to the trip. We're a little concerned with the recent uptick in COVID and Omicron, or however you say that, but I've been
COVID
vaccinated.
deluxe.
Yeah, I've been I've been vaccinated and got my booster, and I am pretty cautious. I wear masks when we go into public places and things. So, but
What
I'm looking forward to coming back to Wisconsin.
what's the speaking of the opposite of normal-ish places of like Wisconsin, what's the strangest place music ever took you? You ever play in like I don't know, Ethiopia or northern Russia or Tanzania or any like off the beaten trek bizarro shows you can think of?
Well, one of the most interesting tours that we ever did, I guess it was about 4 or 5 years ago. We did a 7-date tour of Russia.
Nice.
And we have a big fan base there. And the promoter who we'd done a lot of shows in the past in St. Petersburg and Moscow asked us if we wanted to do a tour and play some of the cities farther east in Russia, like Nizhny Novgorod and places like that. And that was a really interesting tour because I'd never been to Novosibirsk. And
Mm.
it's out there, man. It's way out in the Russian tundra. And what we found is that even though the culture is quite different from what we're used to in Western culture here in the U.S., the people are the same. They love music, they love food. Everybody just wants, to have a chance to live a decent life. And the shows were absolutely incredible because I think a lot of the people there are starved to see Western rock bands come through. It was a bit grueling. It was in the winter. It was really cold. The promoter had hired a jet to fly us around, but I think it was like a 1950s leftover from World War II or something, a little
Oh
dodgy,
yeah.
and knock on wood, we made it safely through the whole tour. But there were a couple of weird run-ins. One show, I can't remember what town it was. It might have been Novosibirsk. We got there, and I think it was pitch dark out. The sun hadn't come up for days, and this is like in January, or late January, early February. And we got up, and I went down to the lobby like at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and we're supposed to, go down to the venue around 4. And we got a text from our tour manager, and he said the venue is just being put together. There's no water or power or anything, so the show is probably not going to happen. We're like, really? Wow, that's crazy. And then we got a text half hour later said, no, I think the show is on. You better come down right away. And we got down there, and what had happened was it was a brand new club. In fact, we were the opening night, but we didn't know that.
Oh.
We got there, and our tour manager and our production manager said, we can't do a show. There's all these carpenters still nailing things up. They didn't have the power. We couldn't even set our gear up. and the guy who ran the club came in and put a gun down on the table and said, "Garbage is going to play the show." And our tour manager Robert said, "Yeah, I guess we're going to play the show."
Yeah.
And so he threatened, he didn't point the gun at anybody, but he put a gun on the table and said, "Garbage will play the show."
Wow.
And after the gig, which was great, at the last minute they got the power on, they got the water running, and we played the show. It was sold out. It's probably 1,500, 2,000 people in there. And then the guy who ran the club refused to pay us.
No.
Yeah, I think we got an advance on the tour, but we were owed the back end or whatever. And he just put the gun on the table and said, "I'm not paying you tonight." I don't know what the excuse was, for something for the bad attitude or whatever. And our promoter, Ed, who was lovely and had booked the whole tour, said, "This is a big fish in a small pond. He's trying to throw his weight around. You're going to get the money." And we did eventually. But it was a pretty dodgy night.
Wow.
And despite all that, like I said, the show was just incredible. The fans went crazy when we played, and so that was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that promoter was probably terrified for his own life if the show didn't happen. If like people would riot to his venue. Who knows? I don't know. Not to take the side of a hoodlum who threatened you with a gun, but
Well, another similar story. We again, Russia related. We played a show, I think in Moscow, that was great. And when we drove over the border that night, we were supposed to play a show the next day in Estonia. And when we got to the border, somehow they hadn't put the right money into the right hands, because you have to put, you got to pay certain people off to make sure you get through, that all your paperwork is correctly signed. And even though we thought we had done that, we got held up, and they made us get off the bus at like 2 in the morning and go sit in the cell, the band and part of our crew, for about 3 or 4 hours. It was pretty disconcerting and a little scary, because you're just in this cell. You have no idea what's going on while they're working out the paperwork. They eventually, about 6 a.m., let us go. And then it was weird, because we got back on the bus, and all these soldiers came on with rifles, and they wanted autographs. And they want us to autograph things for them. We're like, fine, yeah, we'll sign whatever you guys want. But the bummer was, we got to Estonia, checked into our hotel, and we found out that the truck with our gear had also been held up much, much longer. And our tour manager, at like 2 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon, said the gear's not going to get here in time for the show. It was still at the Russian border. They hadn't released it. And our tour manager, Harold, told the band this, and then told the local promoter, who started freaking out. And he said, "No, the show has to go on." He said, "Well, we can't play an acoustic show. We haven't rehearsed it. It wouldn't sound like garbage. We're just going to have to come back and reschedule, because we want to play the show, but we can't without our gear." The local promoter was freaking out. I think he had borrowed money from someone, and the show had to go on, or he was in deep shit. So he said, "Okay, then you have to go on the 10 p.m. news, the local television, and apologize and explain why you can't play the show." And we were like, "What?" And indeed, that's what we did. We got into a van and we went to the local TV station, and we were the lead-off thing at the 10 o'clock news. "We can't play a show tonight because our gear is at the Russian border, so blame it on the Russians." And of course, it was all translated. We had headphones on, and we didn't understand the language, so it was all being done through a translator. And then everybody was fine. And I think Duke said, "Well, we're just going to go back to the hotel and party." And what happened? About 1,500 kids showed up at the hotel, and we partied till about 4 in the morning. So it was actually pretty fun, despite not being able to play the show. The next morning, I remember we got up and we were leaving to go to the next venue, wherever it was, and we saw in all of the local newsstands all these photos of Shirley apologizing to the country that our gear had been held up, and we missed the show. So that was quite an interesting night.
Did that gain you fans in the long run? When you went back, was it hopping, or do you think people were grudging?
I don't think the fans were grudging at all. In fact, I think they had a pretty good time at the hotel that night. Just it was quite celebratory, as I remember.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Well, I know you got a split pretty soon. You got any good advice for a 34-year-old independent musician? To stick around for the long haul.
Well, I tell this to a lot of young artists and musicians or engineers and producers who are just making their way in the business. You just gotta stick with what you believe is true to yourself, something that makes you feel authentic. I think if you chase trends or try to become something that you're not in search of success, you're going to end up really unhappy. And you're going to be much better off if you create art or music that you believe in, whether it's successful or whether it's just something that you end up doing for yourself. Because true artists are not defined by commerciality. They're defined by the craft of what they nurture and what they make. So I really think it's important to follow your path and what you believe in, and don't try to chase something that is false to you.
Great. Was there a moment where you realized like where that really happened for you, where you're like, well, I'm going to stick to my guns on this. I'm going to, maybe this record is a little bit weird or off kilter, but I think it's going to be great, and then it paid off?
I mean, I don't know about records, but I just know in terms of producing, when I started getting into the idea of becoming an engineer and a music producer, I had no skills to do that. I didn't go to a recording school. I didn't work at a recording studio and learn. Sometimes you can get your foot in the door and learn by being around other engineers and producers. I just started making it up. And if you know the history of Smart Studios, when Steve Marker and I opened the 8-track up on East Wash in, I think, 1983, we didn't have a clue what we were doing. And a lot of people discouraged us at the time, said, you guys are crazy to do this. And I think there was a blind stupidity in what we were doing that gave us some confidence. If I know now what I knew back then, how hard it was going to be, it's possible I wouldn't have undertook that. But I just wanted to make music, and I was luckily in a place where I didn't really know what I was doing, but a lot of the bands that came in the studio also didn't know what they were doing or what I was doing. So we're all sort of learning from the ground up. And there's a documentary on my studio that came out 4 or 5 years ago called The Smart Studio Story. And if you listen to the soundtrack of it over 90 minutes, the early songs are pretty lo-fi and scrappy and crunchy. And then over the trajectory of 90 minutes, the music gets bigger and more widescreen and fuller and richer. The songwriting gets better, the bands get better, and my engineering and production gets better. So it was a trajectory. And that's kind of what, I just blindly did it. Like I said, if I knew what it was going to be now, I'm not sure if I would have undertook that. But I was young and stupid, and I just wanted to make music, and that's what I did.
It's a good point. I think if you take a leap and you got a good head on your shoulders, odds are you'll land on your feet. So great stuff, Butch. Thanks for coming on the pod. You're a sweet dude. Love you, man. And I'll see you around Wisconsin hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, Brett, maybe I'll email me when you're back in Viroqua. I'll let you know exactly what days I'm going to be there. But I'm definitely going to be going to the cafe to see Luke and Ruthie and have a meal there.
Perfect.
And I'll definitely stop by the Driftless Books and say hi to Eddie. So hopefully I'll run into you, man. Be
Love
fun.
it. Thanks, Butch. Much love, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, and I'll send you this file.
Cool, brother. I'm just going to hit pause here, and I'm going to save my track, and then, fire that over, and I'll put it together. Should be great.
Cool, man.
We'll talk soon. Much love.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thanks,
Brett.
Butch.